Hello, hello, hello. We are back, y'all. Triggered AF. Yes, we are still in season 4, and we told y'all this time we were going to be getting up close and personal with some of the dopest, dynamic, just phenomenal. Yeah. Just phenomenal humans on this side of heaven. And we have one of truly my favorite people in all the land here with us today. So some of you may know her already. She's pretty phenomenal, so you might just know her already. Danielle Leslie, how are you doing?
Oh my God! Thank you for having me! You too chill for me! Yeah. No, but for real, seriously, it's such an honor to be here. You know you're one of my favorite people. So this is amazing.
You ladies are amazing. I'm so excited. Y'all have no idea. We literally have been trying to work on this, I don't know, for months. Okay, we're going to work on our schedule. Then she was like, oh, I'm ready. Then I'm like, oh shit, but I'm not ready. And then Danny wasn't ready. And I was like, hey, we're going to be ready eventually all together at the same time.
And it's going to be incredible. So
yes.
Thank you ladies so much.
Yes, today is going to be dope. So I hope y'all ready. Dive in. Go ahead, get your notepads, get your pens, your paper, because you're going to want to take notes, sis.
Yes.
Awesome. So now here's the thing. Danielle, you are called a number of different things, from the millionaire maker to one of the best business coaches. Again, y'all, on this side of heaven. You wear a lot of titles. You have a lot of roles. But who is it that you say you are? Because people tend to call us all the things and they decide who we are and everything else. But who do you say you are?
Ooh. So it's interesting. I feel like I'm in a season of remembering who I am. When I think about my life, I think of it in 3 phases. Mm-hmm. I think the first was discovering who I was. Then it was creating who I was. And now I'm remembering who I am. And I think discovering is when I'm younger and I'm, doing all the things to achieve, getting the straight A's, getting the good grades. And then creating who I was starting my business. And that was me, putting my gifts to paper, creating assets. Mm-hmm. And in this season, I am coming back to who I am and remembering who I am. So that question of, who do I see myself as? It's an identity. I love identity and how it shifts from moment to moment. Mm-hmm. Right now, I see myself as an actress, I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I see myself as a believer in IP, in intellectual property and infinite possibilities. And I see myself as a scientist. So when I say I see myself as an actress, I have loved trying on different identities when they serve me. So one example of that is when I was doing my weekly masterclass to grow my business. Mm-hmm. And that was my stage. I would go live every week and I got to put on and, perform on that stage and be myself and do my show every week. Mm-hmm. And that helped me grow that business. Yeah. And then another place I got to be an actress was trying on the identity of what would 7-figure Danny do. And then it was what would fully self-expressed Danielle do. Yes. And so that was me trying on a new identity. Yeah. So when I say actress, that's what I mean. It's really trying on identities when it serves
roles.
Me.
Playing the different roles based on how you're feeling, based on where you are, based on what you need at that time. Mm-hmm. I love that.
We're all actresses, right?
Yes, for real. For instance, I had a retreat recently and for some of my members. And so they're all working and they're creating their offers in their businesses. And they got real serious. And it got real solemn in there. And I could tell they were hitting a wall. And I was like, all right, we need to shake it up. So I grabbed my head coach. I was like, come upstairs with me. She's like, am I in trouble? I was like, no, girl, come here. I was like, you're going to play Little Kim. So you're going to take this blue wig and I'm going to take this blue fur coat and you're going to put on my clear raincoat and we're going to play Crush on You by Lil Kim. Oh, and we're going to bust downstairs and bust up the party. So that's what we did. We put hey. So we put the song on. We came downstairs. We bust into the party. Everyone stood up in a circle. They had their phones recording and we performed. After the performance, I said, now listen, I'm Lil Kim because Lil Kim is embodying everything that maybe Danielle doesn't know is possible for herself. So who do you want to embody? Because right now we're going to create your 6-figure offer. What does $100,000 offer look like for you? And that's for anything, whatever stage in your business. What does that next level look like? Who do you get to be right now? What identity do you get to try on right now to do that? So the first woman, she was like, okay, I'm Beyonce. And listen, we about to create the 6-figure offer. We might do a 7-figure offer. I don't know. So that's what I mean by being an actress and really reaching for it. when you need it.
Like that, like tapping into that Sasha Fierce, that alter
yes,
ego.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason I like that so much, and it just felt so good, like I literally am getting goosebumps right now, y'all. But the reason that feels so good, because it's giving yourself permission to try different things.
Yeah.
You don't have to be beholden to who you once were, or, well, this is just how I've always been. Like, no, you get to be somebody else, especially if it means you get to grow as this new person. Ooh, that was good. I don't know about y'all, but that just, that touched me in my spirit, man. I like that one. I love it.
We always get the best answers. Like, that question is the only question that we ask to all of our guests. Every other question we mix up, but that question, because we deal with so many multi-hyphenate people, and we know that all these labels and titles get thrown on you, and you can get lost in that. So even you saying just remembering who you are, after some times when you reach you attain a lot of success, you're interacting with all these people, and they just throw all their shit on you. Not intentionally, right? Because they sometimes they do it praising you or admiring you, but sometimes you're just absorbing, and then sometimes it's like, hold on, wait, let me step out of all of that shit.
Let me step out.
And remember who I am just at my core without all of the stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So I love that phase. I think every woman kind of goes through that over and over again. Yeah. Especially like for me, becoming a new mom, like I'm now kind of just entering that phase of remembering who I am again. Because you get lost in that mommy sauce.
She's so lost in the mommy sauce.
You lost, just drowning, swimming, just gone out to sea. And it's been like 17 months, and I'm like, it's like the other day I was like at the gym, I lifted something. I was like, oh, I'm that bitch. Like,
yes, you are.
Like, I did something that I was not able to do because your core is shot. And I did it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm back. Like, I know this girl. Like, I was in the mirror like, oh, hey, girl, welcome back.
I love it.
So I love hearing women be like, no, I'm remembering who I am. I'm coming back into myself, and that's just great. I love that.
Yeah.
It is. It really, really is.
Can I highlight one more?
Yeah.
Just because because you mentioned, I think us as women, we have the ability. I mentioned I'm a believer in IP, intellectual property, and infinite possibilities. And I think one opportunity we have now that we didn't have in the same way before is the ability to know that our IP, our intellectual property, is nothing more than our story and our life experiences. So a part of that trying on and remembering who you are is knowing that your story is so valuable. And guess what? Like, it provides infinite possibilities for whether you're making a career move, like, think about what is in your story that is unique, that no one else has. And there's like no ceilings to that.
Yes. And when you lead with that too, like a lot of people always say, well, how do I build confidence? Figure out who you are. If you can tap into the essence of who the fuck you are, it changes the game. Because there's a Maya Angelou, and I love me some Maya. But let me put some respect on her name, Miss Maya. Miss Maya Angelou. She has, in one of her poems, I walk like I got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Yes. That literally is one of it's my favorite part. And I know, like, oh, well, sis, why? It has nothing to do with sex. It has everything to do with power. Yeah. Whether or not you ever plan to bring a child into the world, this literally, it is the orifice that brings souls into this universe. Yeah, it's a portal. It is a portal. Yes. It is the most powerful portal, which is why sex is such a powerful thing. It is the most powerful portal because it gets souls on this side into this dimension. Ooh. And so when you talk about infinite possibilities and you tap into who you are at your core, what you're good at, what you're best at, and you're able to then walk into any room like you got diamonds at the meeting of your thighs. You literally are a portal. Whether or not you ever plan to use it is as irrelevant. And you don't have to if you don't want to, okay? Don't be jumping onto the mommy sauce if that's not what you want to do. I'm a strong believer. Leave them lies right on the other side where they belong sometimes. Leave them there. But I love when you say that infinite possibility, because it's kind of like it clicks something in. You're like, wait, infinity means never ending, so I can do whatever. Like, it's open, like open sesame, like abracadabra, like what? Wild. Yeah. Like truly amazing. Wild. Yeah, when you think about it like that, infinite possibilities. Yeah. Okay. All right. Something that I'm digesting that. I see. Like, okay. Something that, because of course, every time, especially me, because especially if it's a guest Alicia is like very fond of or knows, I try to like go on Instagram and like get a feel for you. Like, who is this person?
Yes. And I noticed one of the things and something that she says about you all the time is you're always talking about following your bliss. Right? And I was like, let me look that up. We're going to talk about it later, but I was like, okay, what does that mean? Because it's like you feel like you know what it means, but like, do you know what it means? You know, so that's how I felt. And I was like, let me just Google it. But anyways, and a lot of times, especially in this kind of space that we're all in, kind of coming out of COVID, everyone's trying to figure things out. There was a lot of discomfort from COVID. And I think that a lot of thought leaders just started pushing that, like, hey, you just have to do what you have to do for a while until you can do what you want to do. You got to work hard. You got to stick it out. You got to struggle. It's going to be hard at first. Like, it's like success stories always have to have this struggle. And it's like, for whatever reason, the success is not valid without that struggle for whatever reason. So looking at your information, looking at your page and your journey of, I'm sure you had hardships, but your perception and how you perceive it and how you regurgitate it back out to people just seems a lot happier than I'm used to seeing for success stories. So I kind of wanted to know, when it comes to you following your bliss, how have you used doing what you love to kind of create that life for yourself? You know, like how were you able to tie that in so that you could follow your bliss, but also have the life that you want? Because some people will follow their bliss or follow their dreams and still not get the result that they want.
Yes.
You know,
it's so interesting. First, on following our bliss, something I learned is bliss can be a state. So it is not something achieved after doing this. And if you think about being in bliss, you could bring me anything and I'm gonna be blissful. So one thing I learned was Ikigai was one of the books I actually read over the past couple of years. And what I took away from it is it's a Japanese philosophy of doing everything with purpose. There is no task that is larger than the next or smaller than the next. There's no such thing. They are all equally important and you can do all equally with purpose. So I look at my dad as an example of that. And it's like him growing up, it's like he has every night he has his coffee pot, he has his square paper towel, he puts care into putting his supplements down, like he waters his plants, he plays tennis, dances salsa, all of those things are important, you know? Yeah. So I started embodying more of that and I got in pursuit of my pleasure. So I ended a 7-year relationship at the end of COVID in like late 2020.
Oh, okay.
And after that, I was left with this question of like, who am I without this relationship? Yeah. But also, who am I without my business? Just who am I?
Yeah.
And so that next year was in pursuit of that question. I was in constant inquiry, you know, who am I? Who am I? And one of the ways I went to answer that was, okay, what's bringing me pleasure? And it's the simple things. It would be an evening where I put on my galaxy light, I played my music, I had my hookah, I doodled, you know, brainstormed. Yeah. And so being in that state helped me feel good. And when I feel good, I do good.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that when I look back, so that's where I am now. Now it was interesting because it wasn't always like that.
Okay.
Like we are programmed, I think a lot in Western culture to grind. Yes. It is the 9-to-5 grind. It was a work day that was designed after testosterone, after the male cycle, which is a 24-hour renewal. Whereas the female cycle, estrogen, it's a 28-day cycle, 28-day renewal.
Yeah.
Take time.
Okay. So we're going to have a week, or I'm going to have a week where I'm going to be laid out. I'm going to be unmotivated. I'm going to visit the darkness of the soul. Like, it's not going to be pretty. And then the next week, I'm going to be creative AF and be like, okay, let's go. Yeah. And so what I realized is I was wired to go. And I thought it had to be hard. Yeah. And I was actually programming myself at a cellular level to expect it to be hard.
Yep. So then when it comes easy, you can't accept it. Yeah. And then you take yourself back to your set point. No, if this came easy, I didn't work for it. I can't have it.
Yeah, and you'll reject that. Like your body will read that as trauma, and you're just like, oh wait, no, that's too much. Like that is uncomfortable too. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I've been doing all the things, and I want this life of abundance, but why can't I get it? But it's because you're actually rejecting it because you don't really believe in that.
Yeah.
At a cellular level, like you're saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. One book that really helped me was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about how to read. Right?
Yes.
So that book that helped me change transform my identity to where I wasn't returning back to that state of stress when everything was blissful.
Yeah.
So I had to like undo that.
Yeah, he definitely talks a lot about that. So that makes sense then, if that is something that you have taken in, because he talks a lot about that. And when you say that, it also makes me think about, we don't realize that our past experiences are making up our personality. Yes. We just think that we're, oh, it was, I was born into this kind of family, so I'm just like my mom because that's what I inherited. But it's like, no, it's like every little thing you do all the time throughout your life is kind of making up your personality. And you don't realize that, oh, I'm just crabby today. And then you're crabby the next day. And then you're crabby for 5 years and you don't realize that now you're just a crab.
Yes!
And at first it started off as a mood. But we don't realize sometimes that we're like morphing into this
new thing. Because your personality is your personal reality.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So when you say it's like, wow, you don't even think about that as a reason why sometimes you may be pushing away some of your goals and your desires without even knowing. Because it's just who you are. It's so unintentional because you're not even realizing that it's something that you're just wired to do because of all the things that you've taken in, your belief systems. I mean, all the things, all the programming, like you said. But it's interesting sometimes to think about it like that because we're always used to wanting to blame some outside factor for why we don't have the things that we want.
Absolutely. It's always someone else. And it's like,
yes.
I said it actually today earlier on a podcast that I was doing. I'm like, you're so focused on what everybody else has done to you and saying, well, this is the reason why this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened. When sorry, not sorry, it all goes back to you.
Absolutely.
It does.
It all goes back to you. Yes, your father may have done this. Yes, your mother may have done this. No, they may not have set you up to get the best in life. And also, you made a choice. Every single person gets to make a choice. It is not about what is happening around you, but how you are deciding to respond to it.
Yeah.
Like, I felt so good because I've been training myself to not instantly go off, because 0 to 100 real quick. There was a guy who he literally tried to hit me because he was upset because I wasn't driving fast enough. Now, my Lola, which is my lower vibrational self, I had to name her so that I can call her into check. Her name is Lola.
Okay.
Lola wanted me to just go ahead and ram his car and throw things out of my window. I told you Lola is
not ram his car.
Wildin'. Okay.
Lola's extra. But Alicia was like, thank you so much, Lola, for wanting to protect me.
Yeah.
However, I'm good. He clearly is having a rough day. He's in a hurry somewhere. I'm not moving at the rate in which he needs me to move, so he tried to violently hit me with his car. I'm going to release him to go and get to where he wants, and I'm going to keep going. And I laughed about it. Which, for me, listen, if y'all have ever listened to this podcast, y'all know that's
especially with road, y'all, on the road. She got road rage, like real road rage. So when she told me that yesterday, I was like,
growth. What I love about that is like an honoring of your low vibration self. So I love to think a lot about how can we embody our past, present, and future selves, because we talk a lot about our future selves, but I'm like, there's a lot to thank our past, aka and or low vibrational selves for.
Yeah.
And I know that like my past self, so this was the Danielle before the business or anything, she used to say that I'm addicted to doing what I love. And this is when I was 6 figures in debt. I had no car. I had no savings, no job. And I moved back in with my mom. Yeah. And I created a show on YouTube. And I called myself D-Love. Because I was like, I'm addicted to doing what I love. I'm D-Love. Hey. The show had about 1.5 episodes, okay? So it wasn't a show. At the time, I thought it was a pilot. It was a pilot. There you go. It was a trailer, okay? Yes, a pilot. Okay, we're about to sell it. But I thank her for being in that mode of like doing what she loves, because what that meant was she she really was in hot pursuit of what she loved to do.
Hot pursuit.
She's like, if this feels good, I want more of it. She'd be like, oh, Alicia, I want more of her. I like her. Yeah. She'd be like, oh, Danny, I want more of her. So with people, it's bringing those people in. It's, me synthesizing information, making frameworks, making fun. I like this. Let me do more of that. Yeah. So I think it's just like leaning more and more into whatever's calling you.
Yeah, and loving all parts of yourself through all stages.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we look back at ourselves, we don't like ourselves, or there's a lot of shame or guilt associated with our past self. It's just like you just want to leave that bitch behind. Like, forget about her, cut her off, bury her, so I love that idea. I've been going through that process too of like, I think you first have to forgive yourself in order to do that. I'm assuming for you that may have been the same thing. For me, if that's what it was.
I visited myself. So I was speaking with my friend Tara Reed. She told me, right? So we're big on time travel, right? So she told me about how she visited her, I think it was her 8-year-old self, and she healed something with her. And so that was in my world. I was like, okay. I was like, that's interesting. Yeah. And I was talking to a coach about it too. And so one day I was in hot yoga and it was the end of the class and I'm laying down, the music's playing, eyes are closed, and boom, I am there. I'm on the playground with 4th grade Danny, and she had just gotten hit in the face by these twins. They slapped her and she cried. And my mom said, you don't cry. Like, you're going to look too weak to people. You need to hit them back. And so from there, what I took on was, I'm too sensitive. I cry too much. I'm not supposed to cry. I'm not supposed to show emotion to anyone.
Yeah.
And what I did in that moment was I visited her, and it was real. Like, I was really there, and I spoke to her and I said, it's okay. And I was like, that's your superpower. You are so good. Like, you are so good.
Yeah. Like, it's okay to be like that. That's great. Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. How I thanked her and thanked her for getting me here.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. Like, that is beautiful. And into going back to your 8-year-old self, usually when we're younger, we only think in abundance, right? It's, you don't think of limitations. It literally is, well, the world has infinite possibilities. When I'm hungry, for many children, there's food available. When I need to put on some clothes, it exists for me. But then as we grow and love adults, but as adults start to tell you.
That's what I was going to say. Until the adults step in.
Until the adults
right?
step in.
Give you a reality check.
Crush all those dreams. Literally crush
Stomp them out.
Just done. It takes away your belief in abundance.
Yeah.
And there are so many people who they say, oh, I believe in abundance. Oh, I want abundance. I know it's possible for me. It's possible. It's possible. They're yelling to the top of their lungs. However, most people, they honor the fact or they believe that there is a cap. They say they believe in abundance. Yes, you can be abundant, but you can't have this. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can have this, but you can't have this. It's literally perpetuated through sayings like, what is it? For every no good deed goes unpunished. And it's like, what? Why would you agree to that? Or the, what is it?
If it's not one thing,
if it's not one thing, it's another.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, like all the things. And it's just like, what are some like abundance-centric like activities or maybe programs or anything that you've read that can like help us to expand our capacity for that abundant flow? Like, what does that look like? What are some like abundance type, abundance-centric activities?
Yes. So one big thing that I return back to is that environment fuels your enlightenment. So
take notes, sis. Take notes on that one. That's a good one. Say it again.
Environment fuels your enlightenment. And when we think about environment, it can be internal environment. So it can be paying attention to our nutrition, our sleep, all those things. But let's think about the external environment. What are we consuming? What are we in proximity to?
Yeah.
So what I first look at is, I really believe in, you are the average of the 5 people around you, but taking it to the next level. And actually, shout out to Tara again. She remixed this quote. And this was at a get together I had at my house. We had a Tell the Truth circle. And she's like, I believe you're the vibrational average of the 5 people around you.
That's why I love
Can you expound on that?
Yeah. So when you think about the spectrum of emotions, there are the low vibration emotions, guilt, fear. Then there are the high vibration emotions, which is where you'll find the abundance. You'll find the belief in infinite possibilities. So where on that spectrum are you and the people closest to you occupying most of the time? Not all the time. We don't
we all
flow.
go.
But where's the baseline, right?
Their set point. Where's your set point? Where do you go back to? Kind of like default. So when I say set point, it literally, I just mean default. Like, what do you always go back to? So if you always go back to being angry or being frustrated or believe like, oh, well, I know I can't because I need something else or I need something outside of me, then that's where you're vibrating at. But if you're vibrating higher and those friends that you primarily put yourself around are also vibrating at that level, infinite possibilities.
Yeah. And I think about 4 types of people I put myself in proximity to that allow me, when you ask about, abundance activities, I'm then able to do these activities with them. So the 4 types of people, when I look back at who's been in proximity with me, they are the prophets. So these are people who interact with you as your future self. So it is my business manager who already interacts with Danielle Leslie, like she already has 100 million in net worth, or she is blissful and at peace all the time, right? Yeah. So those are your prophets. So are the people closest to you interacting with you as your future and highest self? The second type are visionaries. These are people who are 10 steps ahead of me in whatever area of my life I want to improve. So it could be business, could be career. It could also be a sense of peace. It could be spirituality. So those are the visionaries. Then there are the catalysts. These are people who light your life on fire without being consumed by it. So they come in and they help you remember who the F you are. Yeah. Like they take you out dancing and you like, oh, and you like, wear the skirt and you do all the, like, that's your they help you. Okay. Yeah. They help you remember who you are. Yeah. And then you have your builders, and the builders are the people who help you maintain those habits that are helping you build. So that could be in my life, it's my mom, it could be a significant other. So those are the 4 types of people. When I'm looking around, who's closest to me, which of those are they? And with those people, so one of them who is a prophet, and this is Brandis from Harlem Fashion Row.
Yeah, I love
Brandis. This is a great abundance activity. So find you one of these, okay? Find yourself one of your prophets, one of your visionaries,
a builder,
okay?
A catalyst, whichever one.
And y'all go do a dream session. And you share, what do I see? When I'm my highest self, right? So you think about J-Lo and how she is the effect. So do you know that when she wore that Versace dress, they had to invent Google Images because of that dress. Yeah. Because so many people were Googling the dress and there were no Google Images at the time. It was just the text responses. Yep. And so they were like, we need to invent image. So that is what I mean. So when you are in that essence, what does your life look like? So you dream with that person, you write it down. And then that person is going to ask you, what's the bigger big? And you go to the next thing and they're going to give you feedback. And so having people who give you that tight feedback loop and say, what about this? Oh, what if this? And you play the what if game. What if you woke up in the morning and you had a text from Riri and she was like, girl, meet me in Saint Tropez, like, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, what if, books. You play the what if game with them. Yeah. So those are practices that help me stay vibrating high.
Yes. Oh, listen. First of all, you said the prophet, the visionary, the catalyst, and the builder. That is so good. Yeah. And to dream with one of those people, preferably the prophet, because they see further than you can see. I don't even know what to say. I
have a follow-up question to that, especially because as Black women, we are very communal in a lot of ways, just by culture, by nature, I think to some extent. And a lot of the times we get into these spaces where we're bringing everybody with us on our back. Like that's just what we do. It's just our history. How do you navigate seeking out and creating that type of a circle while also maybe having people in your life that you love, that you care about, that you're close to, that may not necessarily fit in any of those categories. So they're not really helping in the way, keeping you at that high vibration that you want to stay at. How do you kind of resolve some of that internal conflict that I'm sure has to come up because so many of us have that girlfriend from the 5th grade that you've just been friends for 25 years, for however many years. And it's just like, there gets to this point where it's like, we've outgrown each other. We're just not vibing on the same place. And I don't even feel comfortable to be vulnerable with you,
Ooh.
to dream, to have that, because that takes a lot of vulnerability to share your dreams with people.
Yeah.
So how do you resolve that when it comes to those older relationships or relationships that just don't really pan out in that way?
I would say first, if it's someone who is even a family member, I would say, but friend or family, know that you have the decision. Like, you are deciding to spend more or less time with them.
Yes.
You have the ability to communicate and thinking back to my core values, it's like transparency, tell the truth. So we have the ability to be honest with them and to tell them where I am wanting to occupy. I want you to occupy this space too. And then it's also deciding how you want to interact with them in your life. So maybe that's the person you go get drinks with, you catch up with, and that's like once a month.
Yeah.
Maybe you just lessen it. Okay. Or once a year.
Yeah.
Or
whatever it needs to be.
Yeah. But I mean, I think like just remembering like we are choosing to spend more or less time with every single person.
Yeah.
We have the ability to choose.
Yeah.
And their emotions, their responses, we don't need to carry. There's one of my favorite sayings, care, not carry.
Yes.
So we can care, but it doesn't mean we have to carry how they are feeling.
You're not responsible for it. It's not yours. Yeah.
That doesn't belong to me.
Yeah. And I would say that there are some places where you may feel a sense of pride to be that person who is a beacon of light for others in your circle.
Right.
So there are some relationships where it feels good because you're looking at it that way. You're not looking at them as bringing you down and holding you back or whatever, but you're taking, you have a sense of pride that I get to be this beacon of light for these people, for this person. I get to take responsibility as that identity in this cohort, and I'm going to relish in it.
And finding fulfillment in that role. And knowing that you do have those other people that can maybe fill you
back up.
Because that's something that I've had to learn probably the hard way, is learning that everyone can't fill your cup, and just knowing the people who can, and just kind of making sure you really pour into those relationships so you have that flow going in your relationship, but not getting frustrated with the people who maybe take a little bit more. Just making sure that my overflow and I'm good, so that I just have an abundance to give. Like I want to make sure I'm always overflowing so that I never feel drained. And it takes curating that kind of circle of those people, which I love the names, and I love that. I'm just taking that with me for life.
Absolutely.
I like that idea of just thinking of your friends like that and placing them in those spaces. And something else to answer my question also that I found is useful is we've gotten into this cancel culture, even with our friends and our family members, and we're cutting people off. That idea of just spending a little less time, pulling back a little bit. Yeah. I call it like, I treat the people in my life like we're on a vineyard, a big house with a huge yard. And instead of maybe cutting you off, maybe you were in my bedroom, but now you got to go downstairs. Right? So the access to me changes as opposed to me cutting you off. You'll feel the shift, and that shift is a boundary. But I'm trying to, because I like to cut people off. Like there's a deep part in me that just wants to say fuck off. But as I've matured, I didn't like the feeling of treating people like they were disposable, right? Because that's such a shitty feeling, and I've been made to feel like that. And I was like, okay, I don't want you to be disposable, but I don't want you in my bosom. Like I don't want you in my bed with your outside clothes on, because you don't understand my boundaries. Right? Like that's the feeling sometimes. Like, oh, you're in my bed with your outside clothes on. I don't like that. So I've learned to kind of just move you around. Like maybe you're in the kitchen, now you need to go outside on the porch for a little bit, and maybe you can come back in. Maybe I gotta take your key. Maybe you just need to go on the side of the road. But I will have you in my life, but just manage the access. And I think that's the same thing. Yeah. I've had to learn that because
I had to put you out to the yard.
So good.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of the drama triangle?
No.
So this was so helpful for me in my relationships where I felt taken advantage of, where I felt that I was getting things taken from, and I was getting poured back into. Okay. And I realized in the drama triangle, you have 3 identities you can be. You can either be the hero, the victim, or the villain. Okay. So what we're kind of talking about is that hero piece, that hero identity, where we're like, we're gonna save them. Okay, we're gonna bring them. Okay,
love my
that's
cake.
the
love
hero.
No,
exactly. Love putting it on.
I hate that
and
cake.
what starts to happen sometimes is when you're the hero, then you start to feel like they're taking advantage of you, taking too much from you, if you're addressing it from a disempowered place. So then you move from hero to victim. And you feel like they are the villain and they are taking from you. And I found myself feeling like that in professional, like team relationships, you know, with certain contractors, or in personal relationships. And so what I asked myself was, okay, how can we flip the triangle? So there's a flip side to the drama triangle. I'm not going to remember all three, but I know that the hero, I believe, the villain can become the coach. So instead of the villain, you become the coach. And the empowering version of the villain is to just coach the person, you know, give them feedback. And y'all gonna have to look up the other two because I don't remember them. But there's another side of the triangle. That's the empowering version of that. But that's been so helpful for me when I start to feel that icky feeling. Because I'm like, I don't want to feel this way about someone I love or, you know, someone in my life. Like, how can I flip this feeling? And I'm like, okay, let's get into that empowered side of the triangle.
I love that because what it does is it's personal accountability. It allows you to say, hey, this is where I'm not liking this so much. Let me shift. And then you come from the empowered place like we were discussing.
You take it back. You take your power back. Yeah. I love that.
Oh, I love that. Oh, listen, it's crazy too. And you were talking about it earlier when you were rediscovering who you were outside of your relationship, outside of the business. What would you say has been either the most exciting or the most challenging thing that you've learned about yourself coming out of a relationship that lasted so long?
Oof. Oh my gosh. Girl, where do I start? There have been so many learnings. So self-awareness on 1,000. I mean, I started my self-awareness journey like a few years ago. Thanks to psychedelics. That was like the first moment of like, oh, like my openness to spirituality and like we're all connected. And from there, it started accelerating by introducing therapy, you know, going to my therapist every week, every Monday at 9 a.m. I was like, we about to start this week, right? So that practice helped. And so in the last, I would say year and a half, the self-awareness has been just more. So I've really taken that observer seat of like observing myself, right? Not being in myself, but like zoom out and let's see what's going on. So I would say one big awareness, I wasn't telling the truth. So when I was in my relationship, I had a hard time thinking I was going to disappoint the other person. Thinking, and of course, he is representative of society. He's representative of ego, right? So it wasn't him. It was my concept of what he represented, which was society, right? So what I found was there were times where I wasn't even honest with myself about what I really wanted and who I really was. And I would keep them and repress that. So one thing I started doing when I was dating was I was unapologetically honest. I mean, it says tell the truth right here for a reason. I would be on that first date and I'd be like, oh, you gonna hear everything about me.
I tell them all the things too.
All the tea, exactly.
If you still want to get with this after I have shown
self-aware. You know what it does too, right? It invites them to own their shit too. So they feel safe saying, well, I can think of on a first date me asking, why wouldn't we work out? Right? I would ask questions like the last serious relationship you were in, if I were to talk to them, what would they say about you? What would they say was the reason it didn't work out? What would they say was your biggest area of growth and opportunity that maybe you weren't ready to receive? So that brutal honesty has not only changed and transformed my personal life dating, it's transformed my relationship with myself. It means I feel more connected. So I feel more sexy. I feel more self-expressed, more confident because I'm owning all of me from the inside out. Even work relationships. So I'm now able to share real-time feedback and not be afraid of like hurting their feelings. Or, well, maybe it's me. Maybe, no. Like, here's what I observed. There's no extra meaning on it. Like, here's what I saw. Let's have a conversation. So that one thing of like just telling the truth to myself first and then to others has been huge.
I love that. And I didn't know that you did that actually. Because one of my girlfriends, she was like, this is when I had just gotten divorced. And she was like, oh my God, Alicia, you're never going to find a man because you talk too much. And I was like, oh my goodness, rude.
Right?
What do you mean? And she was like, no, I'm saying you tell too much of the truth. She was like, you don't show them that part of you until they've already fallen in love. And I asked her, I was like, so you want me to lie to him until I can get him hooked on somebody who I can't maintain because that's not really who I am? I was like, nah, sis, if it mean I'm going to be single for life, I'm going to be okay with that.
I do think there's a way to be honest without being without oversharing though.
I don't overshare.
I don't
overshare, but I am brutally honest.
I don't believe in oversharing or over communicating.
Yeah.
I believe there's only sharing and communicating.
Yeah.
I don't think there's no such thing. I don't think there's such thing as TMI. I just think there's information.
I think that I agree with that to an extent, but I think timing can also play a certain role in the amount that is shared. Like I think over time, some of those things will all be divulged at some point or another. But I do think, especially earlier, for some people, it may be better to, and I'm not saying keep things back and like put on your representative and be a whole nother bitch that he's just gonna wake up one day like, who is this? Who are you? Like, this is like, who are you? I don't think it should be that, but I do think that, especially initially, but especially before we know what we're doing, I'm not just gonna like spit everything.
I definitely do.
I am.
Different folks, different strokes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I tend. Oh, sorry to cut you off. Okay. Then I tend to attract people. So listen, I'm an Aquarius. I'll be on another planet. I don't move at your speed. I'm just like, here it all is. I don't believe in like A to Z. It's just here, bloop, here we are. And I tend, therefore, and I move quick. So I tend to attract people who are like that. So they actually love a big download. They're like, oh shit. They like, oh shit, keeping me on my toes. They're like, wait a minute. They're intrigued. They're inspired at my honesty because they're like, the dates I've been on, the women are holding back. Yeah. Like they feel guarded. You know,
that's what you're describing.
You're probably describing
I'm saying something else where it's not guarded, where you are being 100% yourself. But I don't think all the time, especially. Here's why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because a lot of times women will give a lot in those situations and not everyone is at a space where they're attracting like minds or attracting those things. So it can, I think, get dangerous for women who do attract people like narcissists who use all that information against you. So that I'm saying the caution is more so for a woman who really hasn't figured out how to attract the man that she really needs in her life. And she is just spilling everything and he's just going to use it to manipulate her. Not saying it happens all the time, but that happens a lot to women where they are just open and they're vulnerable. They want to say everything. And then you're telling him the kind of man you like. And now he's just being that man because that's who you said you like.
So no,
he didn't.
I'm not saying so I never give people the blueprint so that they can just copy
paste.
For
some people, that's what sharing means. They're just telling you everything. They just, like how you say, you just like spit it out. Like, this is me. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what I need. Here you go. What's up? What we gonna do with that?
Okay, it's a conversation. We get flowing. I can share more about myself. Yeah,
that's what it is. It's about like what I like.
Own all of me.
Yes, who I am. I used to feel bad about some of the things, like in terms of how I felt. Like I can't promise you that I'm only gonna want to be with you for the rest of my life. I can't promise you that.
Yeah, tell them that straight up because you need to know. That's
I say that on a first date.
Yes,
and if you rock with that, great. You rock with it. If you don't, great. I'm not for you because I'm telling you from the jump, that's not something I think I could promise you.
Yeah.
Love you, meaning I don't know if I could do that. Not and be honest. And for me, like you say, tell the truth. I am learning to tap completely into what is real and what is truth for me.
Yeah.
And so that also means I'm going to share that with you. And if you don't rock with that, and if I see you start with it, because I pay attention to patterns. So if I see you feeling real narcissistic and you bringing up old things, I'm like, I'm going to invite you, like you say, you don't just get rid of people. I'm going to invite you to the side of the road. If we're not going downstairs, I'm going to invite you to the side of the road.
No trust.
Because you can't, I will not allow myself to change because they're not able to take it. I am a lot. And I have accepted that, not a lot in a bad way. There's so much bountiful abundance that comes with me. So me being a lot, I need you to be a man with some big old hands.
Girl, I wrote in my journal, it takes a whole lot of man to hold all that I am.
Yes.
Because I am, period. Which means it's the infinite I am. Which means I am evolving every moment. So to have a man who can hold all of that, you're going to need to know.
You're going to have to catch.
I'm going to keep you entertained, okay? I'm coming at you.
It's going to be
it's going to be fun. It's going to be an adventure, okay? You are not going to be bored.
I wanted to touch a little bit back on you talking about telling yourself the truth, because I think to tell yourself the truth, you have to trust yourself. And I told you I looked up what following your bliss was, so let me tell you about it.
Okay, lay it on it.
Following your bliss means trusting that everything will work out even if things aren't completely perfect. Is that along the lines of how you mean it? This is what Google says, but is that along the lines of how you mean it? Okay, good. So many of us, especially women, we are so used to self-betrayal. How you said you weren't telling the truth, you were lying. And a lot of times we just think about lying to other people, but we don't ever think about how much we lie to our damn selves. And it just becomes our norm. It's just how you are. You're always shrinking. You're always dimming your light. You're always like, hey, I hate that, but okay. We're always taking bad dick that we don't like. I mean, that is a part of lying to yourself, sis. Like, and then pretending that you like or faking orgasms. All those things are lying.
I never did that one.
But people,
I used to. Yeah. It was before I had a voice. It was before I found my voice.
Thank you. What am I saying? The Lord keep out your voice. Yeah. But it's just, I'm joking, but it's all those things that really equate to lying to yourself.
Yeah.
So with you talking about that, that's perfect for my question, because I wanted to kind of get more of a breakdown of how you rebuilt that trust within yourself after lying to yourself for all these years. And I'm sure just when we talk about an actress, it can be in a good way, and it can be in that way of putting on this whole other person that you don't even like. So how did you learn to rebuild that trust with yourself so that you can tell yourself the truth and live in your truth?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So one thing to clarify, to make sure it's clear, is when I said, when I talk about lying to myself or not telling myself the truth, it's interesting because it wasn't a conscious thing. Right. It wasn't a conscious lying. All it was me not recognizing, is this my voice or is it someone else's voice?
Yes.
Is it society's voice? Is it my mom's? Is it my significant other? Is it this person? And so that's what I mean when I say lying to myself. It was me just misunderstanding the voice and ignoring the one that was mine.
Yes.
So I'm actually in that practice right now of honing that skill more and more and more of deciphering which is my voice. Is this my voice? So some things I've done are creating what Deepak Chopra calls the gap. The gap is that time of stillness. No movement. It's just to let the things come in, the lessons to integrate, shit to just shake around and see what comes out. So the meditating, the working out, letting the mind wander while I'm working out, journaling. So through that, and actually this is the first time in a long time where I am not working with any coaches. I stopped working with my therapist a couple months ago. And because what I realized is it was becoming harder and harder for me to decipher my own voice.
Even in using healing modalities and using people.
That's it's so helpful, right? So I was able to get the lessons, and then I realized now we need a gap to integrate those lessons.
And make sure you don't lose yourself even in your healing. Wow. Nobody says that. That's deep.
I've never heard
that. That's so powerful.
And I used to have, at one time I had a therapist, a spiritual advisor, a business coach, and a business manager. And the business coach and business manager might as well have been my spiritual guides because they're very spiritual people. So 4 people, 4 different voices, 4 different perspectives who I respected. And what I realized, I idolized them. So another big area of self-awareness for me is I idolize people. So, and idolizing just means when you put them on a pedestal and you make yourself less than. So I was valuing their opinion over mine.
Hold on. That is what we do with our kids. I literally had a girlfriend tell me the other day, like, once you become a mother, you have to step out of a role where you take care of you and everything becomes about them. And I instantly got upset and I was like, I'm not willing to do that. And so that means I might not need to have no more kids because I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to do that. I adore, my daughter is the homie, but I don't want to put her above me because how can I truly serve her if
you're small, if you're empty, if you're just always giving.
Like, I'm sorry, that was just it's so crazy to me because we do that with our kids and then you resent them or you're mad at them and it's like, why are you mad? You agreed to this.
Wow, I didn't think about it.
You signed up for this and then said that, well, this is just what it has to be. And I told her at the time, and she gave me some pushback, and I was just like, you can say that this is a choice you've made, but I want to teach my daughter that at the end and the beginning of the day, I need you to honor you first. You'll love your partner so much better when you honor you first. You will take care of your kids. I stopped yelling at my child once I started focusing on me.
Wow.
I stopped yelling at her. I don't get as pissed or as angry with her because I started focusing on me. What does Alicia need?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've had to learn to do that in this space because we had the conversation, what episode was that? With Brandon about growing through the shifts. And we had the conversation about like, I'm a new mom and I get very frustrated when I'm trying to work and take care of her at the same time. I love taking care of her and I actually do like to work. Like I love doing, especially in this space of doing Triggered and finally doing something that I really love and feels purposeful. But when I have to do them at the same time, I get irritated as fuck. Like I just feel it. I feel it. It starts for me, it's in my neck, like in my shoulder. Like I just start to feel it. I get snappy and it was happening over and over. We're in a meeting and my baby's on my lap and it's just like I start to feel like the irritation happen. So after that conversation we had, I was like, okay, what is the answer to that? Like how can I like work in a way that I'm working and I'm taking care of her and I don't feel that, because there isn't going to be a perfect world where I'm never doing both of them at the same time. Yeah. So I had to check in with myself and be like, okay, what is the thought process that I can have if I can't always change the environment or change what's happening in that moment? Because I can't all the time.
How can I change me?
Yeah, because you can't always change your environment. You just can't. I can't have a nanny right now. My fiance's not always going to be able to be home. So what's the answer? Because I got to do both. And that is what I had to start thinking about. Like, what do I need in this moment? And for me, I just started like, breathing is like my go-to for everything anyway. So I just started returning to my breath all the time and just realizing that her being in this space and her getting to experience this is like, she's absorbing. This is going to benefit her way more than I can even imagine. Even if she doesn't comprehend now, her body and the energy that she's getting from being in these meetings. And she's just like, her body will remember mommy doing these things and her getting to see a woman do all the things, but also give her the time and intentionality and attention that she needs. So it's just like, I had to shift my perspective around what it means to work, because for a while the working was feeling like it was taking away. And I remembered you said something that you taught me years ago about integrating as opposed to balancing.
Yes, I love that too.
Yeah, I love that. I think about it and I you know, like sometimes you think you learn all the things, then you have to like go back to basics. Like, no, I'm integrating her. She, as long as, and I realized, what is my goal? My goal is to make sure that I can walk in my purpose and be an intentional parent. The only way to do both is to integrate it. There's no other way.
And
there is no balance.
And don't feel bad about it. Like, if someone doesn't understand that you got a kid that's crying, like, okay, well, they don't have words just yet. So tears is how they communicate.
And I wonder, that's interesting, because I wonder how much of that too goes back to what we were talking about, where I wonder if there was a voice saying, it's not supposed to look like this. For sure. Like, it's not right. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? And that's like society's like the voice of judgment. And so you had to ask yourself, okay, what does it look like for me? And there's actually a book I just listened to called Wanting. I don't remember the name of the author, but it's on mimetic desires. And Gamal posted this on social and Abu recommended it to him. And what it talks about is mimetic desires is when we base our desires on the desires of others around us. And it could be on our peers' desires and we take it on as our own without realizing. It could be the like celebrity, they call just the person who's like a few levels above you that seems out of reach. It could be taking on their desires as your own. Or it could be doing the complete opposite, because you're like, I don't want to be like that person. I want the complete opposite of what they're doing. They're still influencing you, right?
Either way.
So it has you an inquiry about just going back and looking at your desires, looking at your idea of parenting, your idea of your relationship with your daughter, and what does that look like for me? Not in relation to anything I've said, just for me. And that's going back to your voice and being able to decipher, this is my desire, this is my voice.
And figuring out, I love that, and figuring out that why you even feel like that in the first place. That's so powerful. We always are focused on the what but not the why. And I realized that my why was because my mom's working took her away from me so much. And I started realizing that that's why I felt so uncomfortable and like pissed. Like, it was just like, I don't want that for my daughter. Like, I don't want to not be there. I want to be really, I'm very, very determined to be very present and intentional with her. Like,
Yes.
I really believe in that when it comes to raising children. I think it's like, I can't believe that so many people can have children and they don't really like take the time to figure out like, how do I raise an awesome
This
human
particular
being?
human. Yeah.
Like the fact that I don't think people ask that question blows my mind. Like, I'm like, how do I raise a wonderful member of society that can do something good in the world, right? So for me, that takes a lot of like being on her and being there and implementing things that I believe will help maybe do that. I'm going to fuck up, I'm sure. But that's important to me. And I realized that my mom working 2 and 3 jobs when I was a child, not ever coming to my recitals, not coming to my games, work and mothering to me equaled not being intentional.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So that's why when we
good.
had that conversation the other day about you can be intentional, you can work, you can do
Because
all
I
the
work
things.
a lot.
It may be harder and it may take that level of self-awareness and trusting yourself and trusting your village
Yeah.
and curating a lifestyle that can facilitate that.
Absolutely.
But it's possible. And I
It's
think
possible.
I just needed to do that. So now our me is grabbing fine.
Okay.
Izzy be talking, I talk back and forth.
Yeah.
and
Like, it's
but she was always doing that, but I feel better now.
Oh, good. Okay.
You know, like I
Yeah.
feel better. Like, haven't you know stuff to get done? Grab it, upload it on YouTube. I've been sending emails. Like, I've been doing the things because my block is gone of feeling like work meant being a bad mom.
Wow.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I love, listen,
Thank
see,
you
this
for
is
sharing that. That was good.
No, because you brought it came to me when I was like, yeah, that is what it really is. Like, you just have to get back to that space of your own voice and what you actually want, as opposed to what everyone thinks you want or says you want, or
yeah,
you know, it's like the channels get crossed. And I love that you talked about even the people that are there to help you. Oh, that's
taking
powerful.
on their voice
Oh my God.
and losing your own.
That is it.
It really is. And to me, I really like that you've curated literally every aspect of your life. It's especially your friendships. And I was fortunate enough to join you on one of your trips. It was game
Which
changer.
looked amazing.
It changed my life. Like the exercises that we did.
You came back a different person.
Because
She did. For real. For real. I was telling my fiance that. I was like, baby, we should have went on some retreat and came back as the Buddha child. I don't know what happened, but I'm here for it. Seriously, yeah.
I was for real when
That
I
makes
said
me
my
so
entire life
happy.
changed.
Seriously.
Literally, in one of the exercises that we did with Sean Derrick, and don't worry, y'all, we're gonna bring him on the podcast too.
Yeah.
He, like you were saying, going back to your past self, he took me back to my, I think I was 8. Yes, I was 8 because that's when my mother lost her son, and that's when her best friend told me. She brought me into the room and she got me dressed up in this pretty little dress, and she was talking to me and she was like, "You're the oldest. I need you to understand your mother just lost her son." And I've never cried about it. I don't know. So right now I'm feeling like emotional, and that's very weird because I've never cried about it. She's like, "I need you to understand that your mother just lost her son. She's heartbroken. Your father doesn't know how to cope. You cannot cry." She told me I couldn't cry. And to this day, I've never cried about it. I have pictures in my phone of us holding the baby that was deceased. His lips are purple.
Oh my God.
And my mother is sitting in the bed. She had to birth a stillborn child, and she's broken.
Yeah.
And they told me I wasn't allowed to cry. So I took all my feelings, all my emotions, I wrapped them up, and I put them on the back burner because we don't have time to deal with that. And the lady, when she was getting me dressed, like, "You now have to be the one for your family to make things happen." And literally from that day until I closed down my business in 2020, that's what I have been for my family. Alicia always took care of it. Alicia always had it. No matter what's going on, I got it, I'll handle it, I'll whatever.
Yeah.
In 2020, I was like, you know what? A bitch is tired.
Put the cake down. Put the cake down. Burn it. Burn the cake.
I burnt it. I was so heartbroken. And so when I was on the trip with you, like I said, with curating your friendships, and he took me back to my 8-year-old self, I cried, and I allowed, not crying for that version of myself, but I cried to say it is completely okay for you to feel again.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
That's why I came back a different person, because I now allowed myself to feel. And that for me was, I was like, oh, this is good. I couldn't have paid for this. Like, there was no amount of money because I didn't know, that wasn't planned for me. I just thought I was coming to celebrate birthdays.
Yeah,
and I was so excited.
That's how we celebrate birthdays.
And I listen.
Oh, I love that.
Put me in a suitcase for the next one.
No, put me in the suitcase.
Okay, I'm sorry. My bad. But
That's
it was
amazing.
life altering. And so with the curating of your friendships, like how have your friends, and this can be a simple thing or however you want to say it, but how have they supported your personal and your professional growth? And I know you talked about those 4 arenas, but like what has that been like for you? How have they served as that support?
Oh my gosh, they've been everything. I think one thing that's helped a lot is me paying attention to the energy and the vibe and how my body feels around them.
Ooh.
Yes.
So
Yes.
feeling energized, feeling awakened, as opposed to drained or down or wondering, why am I in a bad mood whenever I leave this person, right?
Yes.
So it's made it so easy for me to attract those people who are vibrating where I want to be, because I listen to my feelings, I listen to my body. In that regard, that's one area I've really been good at, listening to my spirit.
Yes.
Like it's a clear or
Yes.
And if
it
it's
is clear,
then it's and if it's a then it's a
you gotta go to the yard.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we gotta pull the car over. So everyone who is around me is incredible, and I would say they've contributed to my dreams because we have a lot of the same values. So when I look at my friends, some of them are futurists. So they are also inspired by what could be. So they're dreaming. They are wide-eyed with possibility. I attract people who have childlike curiosity, and they really go into the world on what can we discover here? What's here for us? They treat
like
each
scientists.
moment. Yes, exactly. And they're just delighted and they're present. And one big thing about our friend group right now is we're growing in this arena, but like, we get into a really good place where we're honest with each other. Like we call each other on our shit.
Yeah.
And we do it with love. Yeah. And we say, hey, like, we'll have a discussion and we'll ask the questions. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions. So I put people around me who ask those quality questions. They're not accusing me of anything. They're calling me out in a way that is helping me self-identify. Yeah. So because of that, we've collaborated on businesses, the experiences that, that birthday celebration. It's like now we all 3 times a year will celebrate a group of our birthdays, and whoever's birthday it is will plan it. And there's a lot of development that happens in those times. The breakdown, the breakthrough, the breakup. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that's your question.
Okay, that was literally the exact answer, and not the one I was looking for, the one that was needed and necessary. Yeah. Because I don't come into these interviews with, this is how I hope or expect them to answer. Like it's this got to be in my top 5.
This is great. This is great.
Good. Like, I don't even know what else we got to talk about.
I can't wait to just watch it and get my life myself.
Okay,
so,
again.
This is great. This was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. This was so much
sharing.
fun.
Yeah, for being here and for sharing and for just doing the work and healing and helping other people and just being a light. We need people like you in the world, so it's just nice to just have this and share this space with you. So thank you. Of course, we always want our listeners to know how can they stay connected with you? Where can they find you? How can they follow up?
Absolutely. So just on Instagram is where I'm most active. Danielle Leslie is my handle. Okay. And then, DanielleLeslie.com for the website.
I love it. Listen, you already know you can stay connected with me at Alicia Reese, all over Benance's internet, ALECHIA,
And you can stay connected with me at Miss Danny Foster. And of course, for our Triggered handles, you can go to @TriggeredAFPC on Instagram and triggeredafpodcast.com. And you can go there and sign up for our email list. You can watch our YouTube. You can do all the things so you can stay a part of our Trigger Happy fam. So thank you guys so much. I hope you got your life. Share with a friend. Share with your mama. Tell everybody. Tell the kids to listen to this conversation, because this is one of the game-changing ones. There are so many gems and so many tools I feel like you can take away from this that can really help you get to that next level and get through that breakthrough. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.